Welcome back to a little bit of cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. We're back on a Monday. Sam's back. We're all back. I'm Sliders at 96 today because we saw those last week. Gotta say, that's a first for me. And your Zoom name today is the last 33 Ope. I would like elaboration right away because I don't know. Last 33.
I believe Jacob Misiorowski's preferred number was 32, which was occupied by Savale. So he wore 33 out there. I texted you after the first two innings of Jacob Misiorowski's MLB debut, and I said his jersey will be retired. Nobody will ever wear 33 ever again. Savali's out the door. Misiorowski's getting his number 32 back. Correction, he will be the last 32 in a Brewers uniform ever.
The last 32. So, okay. Wait. Misiorowski will be the last? No, Misiorowski's 33.
I believe he's switching to 32. I could be wrong.
To 32.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, we're going to start the show there because what we saw last week on Thursday with Miz, I know we hyped it up a bunch, and boy did he live up to the hype in that first performance. Pitched 5 innings, probably could have gone more, but he has such an awkward body that he literally rolled his ankle just walking around the mound. But he was throwing over 100, had sliders at 96, did not give up a run, did not give up a single hit in the 5 innings that he has pitched. He got his first win in his first performance. Like, it's hard to tell you like how excited I was to just see an MLB debut like that, because I remember Aaron Ashby coming up, and he was a pretty highly touted prospect, and I think he gave up 9 runs and got maybe 2 outs in his MLB debut, which the Brewers actually ended up winning that game. But when I go and I think of debuts, I think of Freddie Peralta, who I think struck out 13 in 5 innings, I believe, against Colorado. I remember that. I remember Brandon Woodruff pitching against Tampa Bay back in 2017. I can't say I remember Corbin Burns. For some reason, I guess I just wasn't watching that game. But that debut for Jacob Misiorowski, that one might be the best that I've seen.
You could tell right away he looked different out there. We talk about these freakish athletes when people are playing a different game than everybody else. The guy looks different on the mound. He's huge. He's 6'7", listed at 190, which that's a twig. I think he's got to be a little bit bigger than 190. I don't know. It's hard to tell on TV, but
I've seen up to 200, maybe.
maybe. The guy's huge. He's massive, and so when he's throwing 101, which he did, he cracked 100 on his first 3 pitches as a Brewer, which I think prior to him there was only 2 100-mile-an-hour balls thrown in the past 20 years or so, and he comes out and his first 3 pitches are all over 100. Due to his height and length, I think they're reading that as almost 105 miles an hour because he's releasing it about 1.5 feet closer to the plate than most pitchers in baseball, and just having this freak of nature on the mound. Sliders at 96. The pitch reading system kept calling his changeup a sinker because it was coming in at 91, 92 miles an hour. It's like, that's got to be a sinker. Nope, that's his off speed. That's a changeup right there. God, it was rich.
Sliders were cutters.
Sliders are cutters.
Sliders were called cutters because they were 96 miles an hour, and it moved. Like I said, you texted me during the debut, and I call me bad fan. I like to work out. I was working out and listening over the radio, and you were hearing what Brian Anderson was saying over TV, and I was hearing what Lane Grindle was saying over radio, and both of them, and even Bill Schroeder, like what Bill Schroeder was saying, how he had never seen anybody throw a ball like this. It was the same. Pitching Ninja the next day, who's an Instagram account that just talks about the best nuances of pitching, had like a 2-minute video on why Jacob Misiorowski was made in a lab to destroy hitters. And we got to see that firsthand. And what I texted you, I think it was 10 years, $150 million extension. Let's do it tomorrow. Like that was one of those performances you go and try to get a contract signed as early as possible, no matter which franchise you are now, because baseball's a little bit different. We're like with the young kid, go extend him right away, because if you know he's the real deal, you can save a lot of bang for your buck, because if he's a superstar and he does it for a couple of years, then you might be paying upwards of $350, $400 million. I think Jacob Misiorowski is one of those talents. Like it's Burns was electric. He was good. He wasn't 102 with a 96 slider and a
It
changeup
wasn't.
that just goes away from the left-handed hitter and into a righty. And it starts off at the inner part of the plate to a lefty. It's ridiculous. Like I was showing this stuff to Bree, who knows nothing about pitching. And like, yeah, I've showed her stuff before, but even this was like, how does it do that? How is that possible? And my answer is, I don't know. I've never seen it like this before, ever. Like this is like Jacob deGrom type of stuff here.
As a hitter, when you have to sit and wait for 101 to come at any time, and there's also a changeup that'll run away from you, and also a curveball that can be 87 and drop on you, it just puts you in a heck of a spot, man. We talked about a little bit of the control stuff, and he did have a couple walks. I think he had 4 walks in his 5 years, either 3 or 4 walks. At one point, there was runners on first and second with no outs, and he pitched himself out of it really easy. He's a double. He's going to be a double play ball all the time. If there's a runner that gets on first, if he's going to walk, there wasn't a whole lot of good contact going on. These guys are chopping at balls, a lot of ground balls, few strikeouts. I think as the control gets better, the strikeout numbers will get a little bit higher. But if he just fills up the zone, I mean, the stuff is junk every single pitch. It just looks different. There's not going to be a lot of strong contact. There's going to be a ton of double play balls. He's going to be able to get themselves out of innings. And like you said, with Burns and Woodruff, we've seen a couple good pitchers on this Brewers team, but nobody different like this. And I was thinking a little bit, this is someone that when you're in a crunch time game, not in July, when you get into late September, October, he's going to get a couple eighth and ninth inning runs too. I feel more than stoked about seeing him come in and just shut down a game a couple times later in this year.
I remember watching him for the Futures game, and I think he's actually put on a little bit of weight since then. Like when he was pitching for the for the Futures game,
I
it
hope
was
so.
like I'm seeing through this kid because there's nothing there. He's invisible out there, and then you see this fastball that just explodes off of his hand. And my thought process here, and I think I talked about it on the last pod when we introduced him, I wonder how that elbow holds up. Because like you hear about like these super skinny guys, it's very rare. Like Randy Johnson, he was able to do it at the velocity, but he was one of a kind. Where
1-1.
I watched a video of CC Sabathia explaining how he was at his best when he was over 300 pounds. Like when he was 320 pounds. He said he lost 60 pounds one off season and then came back in spring training. He said he felt good sitting at 260, but that fastball had dropped like 7 miles an hour and he couldn't do it. So he just wouldn't put the weight right back on because that's what helped him. And now you look at CC and he's just a beast today because he's lost all the weight and he looks great. But like a Paul Skeens, that's a big guy. He's a monster, but he's also got the weight behind him too that's going to help him. I worry, and this is like without me really knowing what's going on here and knowing the anatomy and what can go on in a human elbow, but I worry about what can happen with Jacob Misiorowski being that much of a freak because there are very few human beings that have been able to make a ball do what he can do. And we've seen a lot of human beings who have gotten close to that in the last couple of years have their elbows blow up. I don't know. I know this is something I'm sure that they've been working on, and it's something that everybody talks on the Facebook and the Instagram comment sections all the time anyway. So it's interesting to talk about, which is why you probably won't see a very big contract extension. It's because there is a concern there. And this is really for any pitcher too, but especially one who's doing the stuff that he can at the stature that he is.
I think it's telling, though, that the way he came out of the game is how safe they're going to be with this kid. They know the type of commodity he is. He had 5 hitless innings in a debut that everybody wanted to see him keep throwing. His pitch count was really good at the time, as it is with no hits on your card. And he stepped a little awkwardly. His cleat caught some dirt, and they pulled him. They know how safe they're going to be with him. The pitching staff is going to be priority numero uno is keeping this kid healthy, and fill him to box if he feels a little bit sore. And he was comfortable turning the ball over as well. They talked to him about it. I heard Matt Arnold interviewed during the game. He was talking with Schroeder during the game, and they said fill up the zone, do what you do. He's a slow walker. He's really comfortable. He's just a relaxed cat. And his demeanor is fantastic. You know, he was comfortable handing the ball over. He was comfortable stepping out. He knows the commodity that he is. He doesn't live under a rock, and he is still cool as a cucumber. So I think all the makings are there for him to be safe and be an absolute dog. And 10 years, 150 million, sign him tomorrow. I mentioned it. I had a karaoke that night. I was working over at on Third. I mentioned to Tom. He's a regular there. Tom, you see, he's always wearing baseball gear. Tom, you see Jacob Misiorowski pitch? Yeah, I'm a Yankee fan. It's going to be great to see him on our team in 2 years. I said, you shut up, man. Shut up. He's going to be good for the Brewers this year, and I'm going to love
it. It's the reality of baseball, man, which that's like what they did with Churio and what you're going to see with like your Jesus Mate and your Luis Pena, who those guys have flown up the charts, and they're saying both those guys have number one prospect in baseball potential. Here, they're just 18 years old. Like Misiorowski is 23. It's that point you have to start thinking about signing a contract. And I don't know how long it is, and that's probably why he hasn't signed one to this point. There's also a concern with him. You did see the 4 walks, and the walks were what kept him from the big leagues because that stuff was always so good. They talk about when he was in JUCO, yeah, he hit 100 for the first time, but he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn if he was standing inside of it. Like, the control is something he has to continue to work on and continue to improve. It works. That's why Arnold says just fill up the zone, because it doesn't really matter where he throws it within that zone because it is so good, and hitters have to be you have to be worried if one of those slips and comes towards your head. And that's why Randy Johnson was so effective. He would literally use the up and in chin pitch to get guys worried, because then they don't know what to swing at or when to swing. Like that, there's this video, and I don't know what All-Star game it was, but John Kruk was taking a at-bat against Randy Johnson in the All-Star game. Like, what should be uncompetitive. But Randy Johnson, the monster that he was, threw one right at the temple of John Kruk. Kruk hit the deck and said there was no chance I was swinging the bat the rest of the time. I was just going to try to protect my body. Guys, think about that. When you throw that hard and you have a little bit of the control issues, it helps you as well. Just try to fill up the zone as much as possible, and you're going to get it done. When the stuff is good, you're going to be that good.
Put one on the backstop once in a while just to keep them on their toes.
That's it. You can't just expect to see something within the zone or around the zone every time. You have to have a little bit of fear inside the box. Pitchers use that to an advantage, and Randy Johnson was one of those perfect guys. Nolan Ryan did the same thing. Like so many of the greats, like just back him off, which Misiorowski, whether he's trying or not, is probably going to back some guys off. Like
There's a few of them. He did have one walk. I think it was 3 pitches in a row that were all a good foot off the plate. It was 3 pitches in a row. He started the count 3-0, and the last pitch was a high fastball that Contreras had to stand up to catch, and gave him the calm down. Ended up walking him on a low fastball the next pitch. Calmed himself down. Got a double play ball the very next pitch, and I think that is the most telling thing of this whole process because the control issues are there. He threw 3 awful pitches, came back the next hitter, got the double play ball, and that's what you want. That's why he's called up to the MLB. If the control isn't there, on a couple pitches once in a while, can you take a deep breath? And that's why he's starting and he's not thrown in the bullpen because if he's got that demeanor to control himself and bring it back to earth, dude, that's different. It's just different. He's starting on Wednesday too, so we're gonna get to see him in just a couple days.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. It's like not quite Skeens bump day, but we're to the point where like you get that excited to watch him pitch. I mean, we've seen him once, so we can pump the brakes a little bit because with those control issues, being as young as he is, as inexperienced as he is,
I'm not pumping the brakes. I'm not
pumping at all. Not even like hovering over the brakes. You're not even thinking. You're just full pedal. Let it fly.
Retire the number.
I love it. So I listened to the Brewer Fanatic podcast, and they said it perfectly, and I tried to emulate it, but of course that podcast actually came out after Misiorowski threw, but it was saying that first start could have been either as bad as you can imagine or as good as you can imagine, and there isn't really going to be any in between because there is that potential. Like, he's had a couple of games in AAA this year. I think he had one, he had 5 earned runs, and that's in AAA as well. Last year, he had a couple of blow-up games as well. That control, it can snowball. So I would not be surprised within the next 5 starts to see one where you got to take him out early because he just doesn't have it. Like, he's still a 23-year-old kid. I mean, we all know what we were doing at 23, and it really wasn't the most respectable things. We couldn't consider ourselves mature Major League Baseball players, as we're both looking around here. But, so be a little bit of concern. Not everyone needs to take the Sam approach, go pedal to the metal. You can be okay to step on the brakes a little bit, but that ceiling is as high as I have ever seen it, and I can very confidently say that.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. This and like you said when I was telling you, Cody, leave the gym and go turn the game on. This guy's a freak. This you said if he's this different, this whole pitching staff, this whole Brewers team is different, man. Because Reister yesterday, he's young. He's 24 as well, and he's looking really, really good. He went 6 innings yesterday with 1 earned. Uribe is only 24. Freddie's got juice in him because he hasn't been used like a dog for his entire career. He's really only got like 3-4 years, of heavy use in him. And man, dude, this pitching staff is just really good. They're young, and if we want to pay the guys, that's what it's going to come down to, is who's getting paid and what we're comfortable with paying. But we got the young guys on the roster, and God, it's exciting. Just 4 games against St. Louis that we take them 3-1. Now we're 2 games ahead of them. We got a big month of June coming up. Got a young team. This is prime Brewers ball. We definitely got the opportunity to get hot here.
Yeah, you can smack me here, but this thought did kind of just come across my mind. You bring up Freddie Peralta, and this is a conversation I had a couple of times before, and I don't know if we had it on the podcast here, but when the Brewers were on that rough stretch, there was a conversation that Freddie Peralta actually gets traded near the trade deadline this year. Do you think with Misiorowski coming up and being successful and knowing you have Woodruff coming back and knowing that Gosser is going to be a piece as well, knowing that you're confident in what Logan Henderson can do, and knowing that Tobias Myers is still there in AAA, is there a possibility that we see Freddie on his way out with a 1.5 years left on his contract this year? Because that is the way that the Brewers operate.
It would be 100% on par with what the Brewers have been doing for my entire lifetime, and 100% would break my heart, because at some point you got to be like, you know what, we got a team, and this has been my gripe, all year long, knowing that we'll have Woodruff come back. Brewers can put together a decent regular season, but then we struggle in the playoffs because we don't have those automatic aces, those one of ones. You need more than one guy. You need more than just a Devin Williams who's all right most of the time. You need more than a bullpen who's overachieving better than what they were supposed to. You need a Freddie on the mound. You need a Misiorowski on the mound, and you need him back-to-back days, and that's how you're going to get through playoff series and stop being a 85-win ball club and start being a threat in October. And so you got to keep your dogs around. But it wouldn't shock me one bit if we sell high on a player for some prospects, because that is just what the Brewers do, man.
The more that I go back and I think about those Burns and Hader trades, like the worse I feel about them. Like, I tried to convince myself and lie to myself that Corbin Burns trade could be a good thing for the franchise. And yes, you have a Joey Ortiz, which he's having a rough year this year. DL Hall looks like he can be a good piece. I like what he's doing on the mound, but you had a year there where if you add Corbin Burns to that rotation, I think you are a threat in October. And we did see it back in 2021. That was when you saw essentially a peak of the 3-headed monster of Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, but they didn't have any bats that year. And that can be something that goes, and maybe that even influences the way that they operate around seasons like these, because you can feel like you have it all on one side and it just doesn't show up on the other side. Where last year you felt hot with as deep as the team was and the chemistry that they had, but sometimes baseball just takes just one swing to go against you, and that just ends your season. And you continue to see that, where this game is such a luck of the draw. I've heard this said so many times within the organization, is they just continue to give themselves as many bites at the apple as possible. They don't try to take a big bite. They just want as many bites, because that gives them as many chances as they can get to go and win a World Series and to just get lucky for one season. Because we've seen seasons in baseball where teams just go and get lucky. It wouldn't surprise me. It would extremely disappoint me to see Freddie Peralta go, because without him, you don't have that leader. I mean, as much as we talked about it early on in the season, Freddie Peralta is the guy that all those young kids rely on. You go and you trade that guy, that's one of your heart and soul players on this team. And I think it's a possibility that it happens. It would be something I think that could break Milwaukee, where they could be sitting 12 games above 500 at the trade deadline, trade Freddie Peralta, and end up under 500 at the end of the year. That, like, we saw essentially the same thing happen when they traded away Josh Hader, and that's a guy that's sitting out in the outfield in the bullpen all the time. But trading a guy like that in the middle of the season completely throws your team chemistry off, and we know how much Freddie means to all those guys. He talks to everybody in that dugout, and he was always there along with Willie Adames and what that culture was like in the last couple of years. So I'm going to say that the team might see the benefit where, yeah, we could go get a couple of young players for the next 5 or 6 years, but you do miss an opportunity. You do miss your ace, and you would be missing one of the heart and souls of your team.
Need those guys in October. Really do. As far as pitching trades go, though, we nailed one last week. Sending Aaron Savali and cash to go get some scrub from the White Sox to Chicago, the maybe worst franchise in baseball. He's like, I want out. I'm not going to play my role on this team. They tried to send him to the bullpen, and he asked for a trade, just being a selfish little child. And the Brewers are like, oh, you want to be petty? You can have fun in Chicago. We are actually going to pay cash for you to leave here ASAP. Yes. I thought that, that as far as Brewers pitching trades go, it was time that we won one of them.
I mean, I understand it from Savali's perspective, and I understand it from both the team and Savali's perspective. Okay, you look at Aaron Savali here. I think he's in his age 30 season. This is the last year of his contract. He is a serviceable major league starter. Yeah, he had the one blow-up start against New York, but we kind of saw how everybody did against New York in that series. And he looked fine even since he came back. But the Brewers wanted to give the ball to Misiorowski, and doing that, you have to take the ball away from somebody. And Savali was the worst of the pitchers that we've had on this rotation to this point, which we have had a very solid starting rotation. And Savali was just that guy that gets pushed away. And you know what? Honestly, I respect it. He went up to the front office and he said, hey, I'm here to start. I'm looking for a contract next year. Trade me. And they did. So they respected his wishes, but it was really funny because it was reported that he requested a trade on his birthday, and the Brewers traded him the day after, and the reports were on that morning that Savali said that he wanted to be traded so he could go be a part of a winning culture. And then Milwaukee traded him to the south side of Chicago for Andrew Vaughn. And I do want to talk a little bit about Andrew Vaughn, because I wouldn't call him as a real scrub. He's a guy who's hit 20 home runs in a season in Major League Baseball. He was a serviceable league average hitter for the White Sox this year, having a really, really a scrub-like year. It's been a bad year, but he is playing on a team that not a lot of things you can be happy about. And baseball's a game you have to find a way to be happy, and the Chicago White Sox haven't given him many reasons to be happy. So it's a change of scenery candidate, a guy who's shown a lot of pop, and he was actually the 3rd overall pick of his draft back in 2019. So he has been regarded as like a bust, but he's a guy who's a pretty highly touted prospect. I mean, he was a part of the middle of that order. Don't get me wrong, a bad order, but a part of the middle of the order for the Chicago White Sox. And maybe you take a little bit of the pressure off of him. They're letting him go and swing it out there in AAA. He's a guy who can play first base. He can play outfield. And he actually has played third base before in the major leagues. It's been a couple of years since he's done that, so I wouldn't rule it out. But I wouldn't expect that Milwaukee tries to get him over there. I mean, you're at a point where you get desperate to move somebody from the left side of that infield out of the lineup. You're to that point. I mean, I've seen Durbin continue to improve, so I feel a little bit okay letting him work it out. But Joey Ortiz, it gets to a point where there's such a lack of offense on a winning baseball team. You can't have somebody that has an OPS at 500. That's like a playoff team does not have an OPS at 500, no matter how good the defense is, which I'm going to be completely honest, the defense isn't as good as it needs to be, even if he was hitting only 220 this year. But that's still not the case. So he really needs to kick it into gear before you see him move out of there. But Vaughn's an interesting piece. He's going to go into AAA, which the minor leagues have shown their way to be able to churn out some good hitters like Isaac Collins. Whose radar was he on this year? But he picked something up in the last year. He's been a league average hitter, and he's stepped into that left field role. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Andrew Vaughn coming up here in the next couple of weeks because he hits a hot streak out in Nashville. The dude's got pop in the bat, and this is a lineup that doesn't have a lot of pop already.
I'm a fan of moving pitching for hitting. That's what this Brewers team needs. So whether it's someone getting hot or just someone getting a shot in there, this lineup needs a boost. I think that he's not going to be a needle mover by any means. If he gets hot and he becomes a rotational piece and he can bring a little bit of pop to the lineup, maybe get us a couple games. But yeah. I'm all in favor of getting bats on this team and using pieces to do that.
Another point to mention, Rhys Hoskins. This is possibly this is probably the last year he plays in Milwaukee. If Vaughn can be serviceable at first base next year, that might be one of the guys that they give a chance to start. Maybe you see one of the young kids that gets an opportunity as well, but they're already looking ahead towards that position where Vaughn is going to be a candidate next year. I mean, I'd love to go back and look at the numbers, but he's had okay numbers, not good numbers by any means, not an all-star, but he was hitting third, fourth, or fifth for a good chunk of the last couple really, really, really bad Chicago White Sox years. So there's potential there. He's going to get a chance, and you just hope that the change of scenery can really turn his career and his profile around. I want to also talk a little bit about this last series against the St. Louis Cardinals. Of course, first game, you take it with Misiorowski. That was Misiorowski Day, a day that we're not going to forget as Brewers fans. A couple other solid games. They take the series 3-1. You love to see it. I want to talk about Wilson Contreras, because I've said this no matter where he was, like even when he started his career back in Chicago, maybe my least favorite player to face the Milwaukee Brewers. I cannot stand it. And it's so funny that his brother is our starting catcher, and whenever Wilson is doing his shenanigans in the box, his brother is literally right behind him. And the instance that kind of brings up this conversation anyway, Caleb Durbin hit a ground ball, and it was thrown over to first where Wilson Contreras is playing now because he's so fat and lazy he can't be a catcher, and they can't put him in the outfield either because he's fat and lazy. So they put him at first base to be a league average hitter, but he thinks he's the best guy in the world. And against the Milwaukee Brewers, I mean, they plunked him a couple of years ago, and he's never forgot it, and you see it with little crap like this. But he stepped into the baseline and essentially knocked over 5'7" Caleb Durbin. I hope that made him feel really good about himself. But then, of course, Rhys Hoskins, standing up for his guy, starts chirping at him. And then Contreras, on the next play, he digs out a low throw and then looks over to Hoskins and says something along the lines of, "Hey, was that one okay?" And then, of course, hits a home run, I think later in that game, and has an absolute parade around the bases. He looks right into the Brewers dugout, rounding first. He does the birdie wings around third base and does as slow of a jog as one can humanly jog on his way from third to home. I don't know how long it took for him to get from home all the way to home on that home run trot, but watching that, as much as I wanted to put my fist through his face, it felt like a couple of minutes. But I want to hear your thoughts on this because I was watching this at the bar on Sunday, and I was just livid because I have not been able to understand his antics at all. So give me a little bit of the juice here, Sam.
Say, it's a lot of talking for someone whose team just dropped 3-1, dropped 3 games in a 4-game series to get past in the NL Central standings in what's a close race and a division that you're going to want to win it because you're probably not getting the wild card bid. It's just a lot of talking for someone that's not putting that much substance forward. Like you said, he's a league average hitter. He's picking a fight with Rhys Hoskins, who's his elder. Show some
not
respect.
Even on the field.
Yeah. It's just a lot of talking for someone who's what are you doing? What are you doing to back it up? So it's unfortunate that he hit a home run, but we got absolutely smoked him in the series. Love taking down the Cards, winning the 4-game series at home. It's good stuff.
I mean, still the majority of our lifetimes, the Cardinals have owned the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think that'll continue. Like, that'll be the team that will always feel so good to beat. Like, even over the Chicago Cubs, I would rather see the Brewers beat St. Louis. Like, I think disregard everything else.
He's got one coming at his ribs soon enough next time we see him, and there'll be a little bit of gamesmanship there.
Quintana did plunk him, but Quintana also throws 89, so I don't I don't count it. Which it was Contreras, after he got plunked, actually ran up the third baseline to retrieve the ball and give it to Quintana, and then Quintana slapped him on the butt when he was walking over to first. Those are 2 former battery mates. They both played together, I think, in St. Louis. Actually, probably in Chicago, too. No, they've played together in a couple of different places. But that'll be it for our Brewers talk today. So that was a very Brewers heavy episode. I don't have any cheese graters. I've been busy, but Sam's been in the lab, and I heard you cook some up for me today. So I'm gonna let you go at it, and I'm gonna try to answer these to the best of my ability.
I got a couple graders here. I do want to give a couple shout outs as well. I did get a piece of Gouda, a little bit of Gouda this week. I also have a winner of the week. Don't need to get too into it because we got some really good graders. Shout out JJ Spawn, Father's Day. Ran to CVS at 3 a.m. for his sick daughter. Came back, bogeyed 5 of his first 6 holes on Sunday. Came back and shot a 32 on the back 9 to win the U.S. Open with a 65-foot putt. Dude, that's just legendary stuff. You gotta feel that's a big Gouda moment for JJ Spawn.
His daughter's never hearing the end of that either.
No, that's awesome, man. That is absolutely electric. The Father's Day for the win too. Big shout out. Don't know if you saw it. Gage Wood, starting pitcher for Arkansas today. Pitched a complete game, no-hitter to 19 strikeouts in an elimination game in the College World Series.
Okay, so I've been working all day. I got to be honest. Hence why I have no graders, but I am going immediately to that highlight reel. When we get 19 strikeouts in a no-hitter in an elimination game, that's what you hang up in the rafters right now, immediately. That guy's number is retired for the rest of time. Yeah.
Shout out Gage Wood. All right, let's rattle off a quick 3 quick graders for you. Love seeing McGill slam the door shut yesterday. But he did have runners on first and second before he got 3 strikeouts in a row. What's got to happen for Uribe to take his job?
I mean, he's got to blow him. And that's what it is about a closer. Like, it's always interesting. I even remember when K-Rod used to struggle back in Milwaukee. He's going to stay in that role as long as he continues to get the saves. Runners on base don't matter as long as they just stay on base and they don't come around to score. Because in the 9th, very rarely do you have a 1, 2, 3 inning, no matter who the closer is. Like, it doesn't matter. It's so hard to shut the door in the 9th. And you see him, but you do see him labor. You see him continue to get the job done. What is it, 2 blown saves this year?
Only 2 of them.
Only 2. Like, you keep going with it as long as he keeps getting the job done. But if I were Skip, I would have made that change already. I think Uribe's built for it. You see that energy. And you see McGill already really thrive out of the 8th inning role. I think that would be the perfect storm. I think that's what's going to happen before we get to the playoffs anyway.
Love it. Big fans of Uribe. on cheese. Big fans of Admiral Yearby. How many carries a game? How many touches a game do you want to see Marshawn Lloyd get this year?
I'm gonna say 12.
12
12
touches a
feet.
game.
Yes, I think I want to see it early because we didn't see this kid at all last year. I mean, he had the worst luck of all time with the injuries, the illnesses. Was someone I was so excited to see get on the field, and lucky enough they had a couple of guys on the practice squad. Emmanuel Wilson had a great year. I'm going to be honest. Emmanuel Wilson is not a good running. Marshawn Lloyd is going to blow him out of the water. You give him more touches. Like, you have fire and ice. You have the speed. You have the power. And that's what you mix in when you bring him into the backfield with Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is going to be your workhorse, but that change of pace back with Marshawn, that speed, when I saw him turn a corner on that first game last year, that was quick. That was like Madden, like 99 out on the edge. I think he only got a yard because he got blown up by a corner. But to see a guy move that quickly very rarely happens out of a Packers backfield. I want to see him get opportunities. And I also want to see him take a load off of Josh Jacobs. I'd love to see Jacobs do this into his 30s. And it's going to be difficult at 340 carries a year. Give a few to Lloyd. He's young. He's fresh. And I think he's got all the talent in the world.
We know that the running backs have a short lifespan, so really excited to see some young legs back there. I think he can be electric on the amount of touches he gets this year as well. All right, rank these goated pass catchers. These goated pass catchers, I need you to rank them first to four. Who's your first target, second target, third target, fourth target?
Okay.
Hungover Max McGee, Jeff Janis on a Hail Mary, Hoodie James Jones, Jerry Rice.
Okay. You have Hoodie James Jones. Okay. I'm writing these down and then okay.
Hungover Max McGee.
So
Jeff
hungover
Janis.
Max McGee is number one out of all the games that he was hungover in the Super Bowl. I think we had that as well. Hungover Max McGee in the Super Bowl. That's number one. Which else of these guys averaged 2 touchdowns in a game? Max McGee did. He's number one. You can't argue with those numbers. That's analytics. At number 2, I have to go Hoodie James Jones. I think he had 14 touchdowns that year. I think he led the NFL in touchdowns. Just incredible stuff. Number 3, Hail Mary Jeff Janis. Almost single-handedly. Aaron Rodgers helped him a little bit, but single-handedly on the last drive, got Green Bay in the playoff game, took the game to overtime, 2 consecutive plays, a monster. Like, just when you think of Hail Marys and someone just dominant being double covered, you think of Jeff Janis, and it's because of those 2 plays. And then number 4, I got this scrub, Jerry Jones.
Jerry Rice.
I don't even know your yeah.
Not a bad check down. Yeah, check it down to Jerry. No.
Okay, James Jones, Jerry Rice, Jerry Jones. Thank you, Jerry Rice. But no, in all honesty, no, Jerry Rice, go look at those numbers. Like, nobody will ever do what Jerry Rice did. Like, he will be, like, we talk about Brady as the GOAT, but like,
yeah. We never know if James Jones was wearing a hoodie every day. We never know. Maybe the numbers would be shaped up a little bit different.
Oh, I love that. Great stuff there, Sam. I appreciate that. Well, that's going to do it for us today. A Brewers heavy show. Of course, we had some Jair Alexander. I'm sure we'll have enough to talk about him as well. And the NBA Finals will be wrapping up here soon. We'll get to talk about that next week as well. We will plan for Monday. I'll be in Utah. We'll see if we get that show in, but we're certainly going to try. If I can't, I'm going to make Sam do it anyway. But I'm Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas. We'd like to thank you for being here for another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.